about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free.
Geography live lounge to see who's there, and it looks like it's really sunny at Suzanne's place, bottom left, Alice's top right, and Brendan, I think you're leading us off today on this session. Good afternoon to you all. You all well?
Very good, thank you, Jim.
Oh, that's good. The sound is working.
Please speak. That has really spoiled the occasion slightly. Oh, it's over now. That's fine.
You couldn't tell that was rehearsed. I don't think anyone spotted in the chat window that was rehearsed. Took us all off the whilst we consider what we've just seen, particularly Suzanne there with that fine piece of acting, just missed the Golden Globes. Brendan, do you want to give us a flavour for what? Yes, yeah, next year. Brendan, what's Weather Hazards all about? What are we covering? What's the format for today? And then when we're ready, we'll get going as people are joining us here in the session in the chat window.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Well, this is geography, Jim, but not as we know it. This is a revision session today on weather hazards, which is the second one. Last week it was tectonic hazards. Tectonic hazards is actually a slightly smaller section of the AQA GCSE than weather hazards. Weather hazards is a lot more to it, but we've only got the same amount of time, so we're going to have to pack quite a lot in. We may miss out a few little bits and bobs here and there, but apologies for that. We'll do as much as we can. So what we're going to be doing is looking at the following activities: bubble quiz, and then timeline, red herring, which is the odd one out activity, connection wall, which is rather like a famous program on television, categorize, and some multiple choice questions to round off at the end. And in case I forget to say it at the end, next week we're looking at tropical rainforests. So we can look at the first activity, which I didn't mention because it's just a warm up. This is a conundrum. You have 30 seconds to try and, it's basically an anagram. What is the anagram here? So if you need a clue, it's 3 alliterative words. And each word begins with the letter S. So let's see, what was that word, or what are the words? Jim, have we got the answer to that? Hopefully you will have got that, the Saffir-Simpson scale. So that is the scale which is used to measure hurricanes, but sometimes it's used in other parts of the world. So it goes from 0 really up to 5, and some people even say it should have number 6, but at the moment it just goes up to number 5. Right, we're now going to start on the bubble quiz. So for this one, you have a selection of answers, 4 answers to choose from. The correct answers could, however, be none of them or up to 4 of them. Okay, so it could be 1 of them right, 2 of them right, 3 of them right, or all 4 right, or none of them right. So let's take a look at the first one. Which of the following terms are used to describe tropical storms? Is it hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones, or tornadoes? To choose your answer. And we will see the answer now. So the correct answer is that 3 of them are correct: hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones, because tornadoes are not tropical storms. They are an atmospheric feature, they are a hazard, but they are not a tropical storm. Let's have a look at number 2. So for number 2, in which of the following countries would the term hurricane be used to describe a tropical storm? Look at these names carefully. Would it be A, Mexico in North America, B, Bangladesh in South Asia, C, USA in North America, or D, Japan in Eastern Asia? So choose your answers, and the correct answers with that one will be A and C. So hurricane is applicable in Mexico in North America and also in USA in North America, but not in the other 2 regions. These are regionally specific names. Let's have a look at question number 3. Another one about regionally specific names. In which of the following countries would the term typhoon be used to describe a tropical storm? Would it be A, Cuba, North America, B, Philippines in Southeast Asia, C, Sri Lanka in South Asia, or Japan in Eastern Asia? Make your choices. So if we have a look at the answers for that one, the correct answers will be, for that one, 2 of them: Philippines in Southeast Asia and Japan in East Asia. They're the names that are used in that part of the world. Let's have a look at number 4. In which of the following countries would the term cyclone be used to describe a tropical storm? Would it be A, Jamaica, North America, B, Sri Lanka, South Asia, C, India, South Asia, or D, Bangladesh in South Asia? Make your choices. How many of those answers are correct, if any? And the answers will be, the correct answers are B, C, and D. So You wouldn't use cyclone in the North American region, but you would actually use it in the other jurisdictions. Let's have a look at question number 5. In which sea areas, this is not talking about continents this time, which sea areas would the term hurricane be used? Would it be A, the Caribbean Sea, B, the Eastern Pacific Ocean, C, the Indian Ocean, and D, the Atlantic Ocean? Which of those would be most appropriate, if any? Trickier question, this one. Let's have a look at the correct answers. The correct answers for that would be A, B, and D. So you would use hurricane in the Caribbean Sea. Eastern Pacific, remember, is the part of the Pacific Ocean that's near to North America. That's where you might have found that one a bit tricky. You wouldn't use that term in the Indian Ocean, but you would use it in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so thank you very much. We're now going to ask Alice to lead us in the timeline. Over to you, Alice.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, so clearly one of the key weather hazards you need to know about is the tropical storm. But the question is, how do they form? This timeline activity requires you to match up some statements. So if we have a look at it, the boxes on the left-hand side with letters provide a basic outline if you're going to describe the formation of a tropical storm. And the statements are in the correct order, but they need to be matched up to those boxes on the right-hand side, which are numbered. Okay, so with each of those give a little bit more information to help you put together a really detailed description of how a tropical storm is created. So I'm going to ask you to put the letter and the matching number in the chat. So for example, if you think A matches up to 4, you type A4 in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to give you sort of 30 seconds or so to have a look at that. If you're feeling clever, match up all of them. Some nice answers coming in there. Quite a few people are identifying A and 5. Where can we go from there? Great, keep them coming. Can we match up all of the letters and the numbers? Anyone going to have a go? Well done. We've had one person have a go and someone else. Well done. If you can match up all of them, that's brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look. Now that we've had 3, 4, 5 people have a go at the full range, Jim, let's have a look at the answers, please. And I'll talk us through it. Great. Okay, so first off, lots of people spotted that A and 5 linked together. We need a warm ocean to create a tropical storm. They form in the tropics, in low latitude areas, so between 5 and 30 degrees north and south of the equator. And in these regions of the Earth, when the sea surface temperature reaches about 27 degrees centigrade, remember we're talking about hurricane season, not year round, it only takes a little bit of air instability to start warm, moist air rising to create clouds as that warm, moist air cools and condenses. So those people that said B2, absolutely right as well. Now, C6. Rising air is deflected due to the Earth's rotation. This is known as the Coriolis effect, or maybe your teacher said Coriolis force. This is because the Earth is a sphere and it's spinning, so air is deflected. once that rising air starts to be deflected, the storm will start to rotate and give those really distinctive swirling cloud patterns that we can see on satellite images. And the clouds, of course, swirl in an anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Great. So D1, tropical cyclone, is the official name for a storm when it's really kicked off, and that's when it reaches a wind speed of about 74 miles per hour or 120 kilometers per hour. From there, the tropical cyclone can strengthen, because remember, 74 miles per hour is only about a Category 1 storm, and we've heard that the Saffir-Simpson scale goes up to Category 5. As it strengthens, we'll get a much clearer development of what we call the eye, which is that clear sort of cloudless center to the swirling storm that we can see on satellite images. Of course, when a tropical storm moves over land, tropical storms lose energy and weaken, because it's actually, the storm is then deprived of what fueled it, which was the warm, moist air. And that's how the tropical storm ends. Right, phew. Over to Suzanne for a red herring activity.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, so we played this last week. This one is effectively our odd one out. So we're looking for the red herring, the odd one out. And also what I'd like you to do, if you can pop into the chat box, the reason why you think it's the odd one out, what is it that the other three have connecting them that means that the red herring doesn't fit in? Okay, so question number one then, which of these four items is the odd one out and why? So we've got winter storm, we've got B, heat wave, C, sunny intervals, and D, drought. Can you pop into the chat box, please, your answer? Okay, I have got a few coming up on the chat. Still waiting. Okay, so what's the odd one out? Oh, I think we've got someone coming in, an awesome Pro 2 gamer, I think, who's got the correct answer there. Okay, and a few more with the correct answer. So can I have the reveal, please? So the odd one out is the sunny interval. And the reason is all the others are types of extreme weather. So winter storm, heat wave, and drought. They're all unexpected or unusual or severe types of weather. And actually, we've had some quite severe weather recently on the 10th of February, which was a couple of weeks ago. Oh, my umbrella again, quick. The UK actually recorded the coldest temperature for 25 years. In Braemar, it dropped to a very, very, very chilly minus 23 degrees. So I'm quite glad that I don't live far up in Scotland. Right, okay, next question. So what's the odd one out? And can you tell me what connects the other three? So people cannot work, business is damaged, education disrupted, and reduction in GDP. Which one do you think is the odd one out, please? I can see some of you reacting to that extreme weather event of the downpour. Okay, so we've got some answers coming in. Fantastic. The answer is... Thank you. C, the odd one out, or the red herring, is education disrupted, because all the others are economic effects. So they're things to do with money. So when people can't get to work, businesses stay closed. And that can be impact on our national economy. In fact, doing Beast from the East might be something that many of you have studied as an example of extreme weather. Supermarkets estimated that they lost about £22 million in sales. And for the whole of the UK, the estimate was that we lost about £1 billion a day as a result of those very heavy snowstorms. Right, question 3. So which one do you think is the red herring, the odd one out, and what links the other three? Pop in the chat box. Okay, just waiting for a few answers there in the chat box. I love snow too, Safe Sword. Okay, I've got the correct answer. Well done, Jazzy Bazzy. Right, okay, so can we have the reveal, please? The answer is B, people's life expectancy reduced. That's the red herring, because all the others are environmental effects of severe weather. So actually things like a very cold snap can maybe affect the breeding success of some types of insects and can lead to an overall decline in the population that year. Right, moving on to question number 4. Thank you. So which one is the red herring, the odd one out, and what connects the other 3, please? So pop that into the chat box. Let's see who can be the first to get the correct answer. Okay, I think Laura's come up with the first answer there. Well done, quick off the mark. Yeah, quite a few correct answers. See if you can pop down the reason why you think, or what connects the other 3. Okay, can we have a reveal, please? So this one, the odd one out here, or the red herring, is business is damaged, because all the others are social effects of extreme weather hazards. So these are all things that affect people and their lives. Right, final red herring, please. Let's have a look. Okay, now this one links a little bit with another unit, the resources unit, the challenge of resources that you look at on paper 2. So which one of these is the red herring, the odd one out, and what connects the other 3, please? Okay, I've got some correct answers coming up on that chat box. Brilliant, yes, and I've got some of the connection being made. Well done. Fantastic. Right. The correct answer is natural gas power station. And the connection with the others, they are all renewable energy sources which have low carbon emissions. And as I said, that also links to your paper 2 challenge of resources unit. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to go back over to Alice with the connection wall.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, so for this one, we need to get our virtual highlighters out because we've got 16 things, statements, facts, key geography terms. And I want you to think about what might link some of them. So really, we're going to need 4 virtual highlighters because we're going to come up with 4 groups of terms or phrases here. And I'm going to give you a clue to start you off. If you look at those and I say, not fossil fuels, can you think of a group that links 4 of those in the table? So not fossil fuels is my clue. And Jamini's quick off the mark. So's Laura. Let's have a few other people. What do you think? Have a look at the others. Can we come up with some other groups? Could we group these together? Well done, Puffy Pufferfish. Great. So, Jim, if we can make it a bit simpler, should we just have a look at that first group? Thank you. Okay, so we got solar power, tidal power, wind power, and hydroelectric power, all renewable energy sources having very low carbon emissions. So that's key. Those sources of energy are going to be key to us addressing climate change going forward. So just have a look at what we've got left. What other groups could you come up with? Some other people making some suggestions. Any other groupings you can see there? It's tricky because some of them are longer statements. Yes, due to you, we have got to love renewable energy. I've got to second that. Okay, well done to Safe Sword. Looks like it's got a good grouping there. Jim, should we have the next group of 4 there, please? Okay, so these 4 are all linked to something we've discussed before, which is the Coriolis effect or the Coriolis force. So the idea that winds are deflected due to the Earth's rotation, and this creates a spiral satellite image of a tropical storm. So viewed from above, tropical storms look like a swirling mass of cloud, and those tropical storm winds are either appear to be blowing in an anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. So well done if you got that bit. But it's difficult to summarize all that in the chat, isn't it? Let's have a look at one of the other groupings, because some people have got the next one, I think. Next one, please. Thank you. So some people clearly had spotted that what we've got left are ways of coping with climate change, aren't there? Now, this, first of all, are adaptation examples. So these are things that people can do to cope with the effects of climate change. More air conditioning in houses to cope with very warm weather in the summer. We've got changing to drought-resistant crops, again affected by drought, and then building seawalls and flood barriers, perhaps looking at warmer, wetter winters. So this is ways we can cope with climate change. But then what might be the last grouping? What heading might we have given those last four? Any ideas? Yeah, Elon Musk is relevant to this, absolutely. So that last grouping, let's have a look at that then, Jim, please. Those are what we call mitigation examples. So these are examples of things that people can do to try and address the root cause of climate change. And of course, you would know that that's greenhouse gases being emitted and building up in the atmosphere and creating the greenhouse effect. So if we look at these are all examples of ways we can address climate change at root, at cause, by reducing emissions. So we've got international agreements to try and get countries to agree to sign up to reduce carbon emissions, perhaps trying to capture those greenhouse gases from, say, a natural gas power plant, so they're not being released into the atmosphere. Planting more trees makes sense, doesn't it? Because they're going to absorb carbon dioxide as they photosynthesize. And then electric vehicles. If that electricity is created by, say, wind power, then that vehicle is not adding to climate change in the way a petrol-powered car is. Thank you very much, and well done to people who contributed on that one.
Right, okay, thank you. Now we're going to do a categorise activity. Now we have 8 statements on the right-hand side. What you need to do is decide which ones are primary effects of extreme weather. So that's impacts that happen during the event. So, for example, a very heavy rainstorm. And secondary effects, that's impacts that happen as a result of the event. So that could be maybe several hours, several days, weeks, or even months later. So what I'd like you to do is pop into the chat box. That's thank you, Jim. P for primary effects, and then pop down the numbers that you think are primary effects. And then you can pop in S for secondary effects and type in the numbers that you think are secondary effects. And let's see who can be the first one to categorize those correctly. Oh, Safe Sword's off to a strong start. I've got sort of some primary ones there that have been popped down. Great stuff. That's brilliant stuff. I've got some really good answers coming up, some strong geographers online tonight. Oh, nearly the end. If you can get those secondary ones up now. Okay, brilliant stuff. Thank you. Great to see so many of you contributing on that chat. Right, could we have the reveal, please? So here are the answers. So the primary effects you can see there. These are things that happen during the event. So it could be that homes and workplaces are damaged, maybe flooded, for instance. You can see the transport infrastructure is damaged. I know I've looked at the Boscastle case study, and we saw bridges being damaged by cars and the trees which were being washed down the river. You can have power cuts, and lastly, people obviously sadly drown in some of the storm surges that come with some of the tropical storms. Some of the secondary effects there: homelessness. If people's homes are destroyed, then obviously they become homeless. Aid, so help, whether that's food or water or even medical help, can be blocked, maybe by landslides. We can have waterborne diseases, so cholera can be a big problem after tropical storms in some parts of the world, and also education can be disrupted for months. Now, all of these are very generic, but just to remind you that you will have a named example of an extreme weather and also of a tropical storm. So you need to make sure that you have revised some very specific details about your case study, because you may be tested on those in the coming months by your teachers. Okay, right. I'm now passing back over to Brendan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Suzanne, and thanks, Alice, for those earlier questions. So finally, we are in the home stretch. We've got 10 multiple choice questions now. And the first one is this. What do water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides, and ozone have in common? Are they A, greenhouse effect, B, glasshouse gas, C, greenhouse gas, or D, glasshouse effect? All you have to do is choose one of those. One of those is the correct answer. Getting quite a few answers coming in. I wonder if anybody's got the correct one. Let's have a look at that, Jim. See, the correct answer is that they are greenhouse gases. Each of those is a greenhouse gas. Right, so fast pace. Well done. Several of you got that right. Number 2 coming up. Select the correct term for the worldwide system of winds which transfers energy from tropical to polar latitudes. Is it A, global atmospheric rotation, B, regional atmospheric circulation, C, national atmospheric circulation, or D, global atmospheric circulation? So which of those is the correct answer? A, B, C, or D? Several good answers coming in here from too many people to mention, actually. Let's just check the answer. And that is, of course, global atmospheric circulation. Excellent. Right, number 3. What is the name of the period of geological time which started about 2.6 million years ago up to the present day? Is it A, Quaternary period, B, primary period, C, secondary period, or D, tertiary period? So make your selection. Is it A, B, C, or D? And the answer to that one is, of course, the Quaternary period. The other words were thrown in there are actually all to do with different sectors of industry. So don't muddle those up. Right, question number 4. Which of the following is not a natural factor causing climate change? Is it A, deforestation, B, volcanic eruptions, C, changes in the Earth's orbit, or D, changes in solar output? So which of those, A, B, C, or D, would be not a natural factor? And the answer to that one is, of course, A, deforestation, because that's something that people do. Number 5 coming up. Which of the following is not a human factor causing climate change? Is it A, cutting down trees, B, use of fossil fuels, C, agriculture, or D, volcanic activity? And we can see the answer for that one is going to be D, volcanic activity, because that's the only one that's not a human factor. That's a physical factor or a natural factor. Number 6, in the management of climate change, which of the following is not an example of mitigation? This was a word that appeared earlier on. So A, carbon capture when burning fossil fuels, B, building seawalls and flood barriers, C, planting more trees, that's reforestation. D, international agreements such as the IPCC. So choose one of those, the one that is not an example of mitigation. And the correct answer to that one, number 6, is B, because that's something we're doing to sort of just protect against and adapt to climate change rather than doing something that sort of gets at the root causes. Number 7 is going to be in the management of climate change, which of the following is not an example of adaptation? Again, we're going back to those key words. So this is about adaptation. Which of them is not an example of adaptation? Is it A, managing water supplies such as water harvesting? B, change agricultural systems such as using drought-resistant crops? Carbon capture when burning fossil fuels? D, building seawalls and flood barriers? So the correct answer to number 7 is C, carbon capture when burning fossil fuels, because that is actually trying to tackle the causes. So that would be a mitigation. 8, 3 more to go. Number 8, which of the following is a hard engineering method of managing rising sea levels and storm surges? Is it A, floodplain zoning, B, coastal ecosystem restoration, as would happen with mangrove swamps, for example, C, river restoration, or D, movable flood barriers? And the correct answer to that one is D, movable flood barriers. Most definitely a hard engineering method. Let's look at number 9. Number 9, which of the following is a soft engineering method of managing rising sea levels and storm surges? Is it buildings on stilts? B, raising sea walls? C, movable flood barriers? Or D, coastal ecosystem restoration, such as mangrove swamps? And we're having quite a few examples there. Good answers generally speaking there, because the correct answer is D, coastal ecosystem restoration. So check your understanding of what hard and soft engineering are. And final question number 10. Hazard responses are sometimes organised by NGOs. Select the correct long version of this term. Is it A, national government officers, B, national government officials, C, non-governmental organisations, or D, non-governmental officers? Make your choice for the last question. So roaring home with a lot of correct answers there, and that is C, non-governmental organisations. So that brings our revision blast to a close for this week. Thank you very much to Jim and Alice and Suzanne for leading us in these lively discussions. We've had lots of fantastic answers. I'd say the quality of participation was really, really tremendous. So thank you for that. You can always watch this session again because it has been recorded, and last week's, and after next week's, you can watch that one after next week. But please take part live if you can next Tuesday. And is that at a different time, Jim, or?
Possibly, probably maybe a little bit later, maybe half an hour or so later. We're just having a look at the times that we can run these sessions for the different subjects when students start to go back to school and college next week. Obviously, for some students, it's staggered. They may not be back this time next week, but we'll let you know. The main thing to do is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you'll get an alert as soon as we set the session up, and also a reminder when the session's about to start. Don't forget, Brendan and Alice and Suzanne are paid by the thumbs up, by the likes that we get for this video, and I'm paying the bill. So please do not press that thumbs up button at all, because it's going to cost me. No, please do. If you found it useful, that's great. Yeah, Brendan's mentioned the recording. I'll pop a link on the comments to this video in YouTube. This video link stays the same in YouTube. As soon as we're finished, about 2 or 3 minutes afterwards, YouTube will display a permanent recording of the session. And also on the Tutor News site, you'll be able to also download the PowerPoint that we've used. If you want to have a look at the slides and take a look at your own time, look through the slides, that will be available as a free download. Hopefully you found it useful. What's our session next week, Alice? I think we've got a different topic lined up, haven't we? What's the...
Yeah, we're on rainforest next week.
So I need to find a
Rainforest.
rainforest sound effect. I'm not quite sure what that sounds like, but I'll
Still going to be...
Oh.
Still going to need my umbrella for next week.
Is that a rainforest?
Yeah.
Near enough. But again, thanks. I mean, Brendan, Suzanne, Alice, fantastic. Thanks very much, firstly, for putting the session together, for leading it so well, and for responding to all the answers coming through here on the chat. Thank you to everyone who's taken some time out to join us in the session. We really do appreciate it. If you found it useful, join us next week. And more importantly, tell all your mates at school and your teachers about the session if you think they'd like it too. But from now, from me, Jim here at HQ, and from Alice, Suzanne, well, it's now Sunny, and Brendan. See you next time. Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.